Hi, I'm Kasia Oźmin, Creative Director at Design and Branding Studio Together We Create, and we are based in Dublin. I'm delighted to be here on behalf of the Art Directors Club of Europe for their Winners Talk series, interviewing the guys at INNOCEAN Berlin on their amazing and deserved success on their project Printed by Parkinson's. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Marlon von Franquemont. I hope I've said that correctly.
You said it correctly. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, Creative Director, and also Reinier, Gorissen, Creative Director. Nice to have you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Yeah.
So a massive congratulations on the project. Printed by Parkinson's is a truly emotive art collection created by the first machine affected with a human disease, Parkinson's. It's been highly awarded across a number of categories. You guys received gold for graphic design, innovation, and best use of data.
I think it might have been, but it's always a good sign when you forget, I think.
Yeah, right? Too many.
It's a luxury, yeah.
Too many, yeah. And look, accolades aside, I think, you know, the real achievement is, you know, the lives that you have touched and the empathy that you've created with this for, you know, people who are suffering with Parkinson's and also those who aren't. You know, as a judge, I was super inspired by the use of technology, how you could communicate such a, like a tricky subject, a sensitive subject, but also as someone who has a family member suffering with Parkinson's, it really gave me an insight into exactly what they're going through and what they're experiencing with everyday objects. So, you know, really well done. So the project was a machine that created unbelievably human results, right? But I'd love to know a little bit about how it started and the journey. So can you guys tell me a little bit about the client brief? So definitely. Was it a collaborative process or were they very, very clear from day one what they needed? So Marlon, Reinier, can I hand it over to you for your insights?
Sure. Thanks a lot, first of all, for the wonderful introduction, and I'm very honored as well to be to be with you in this conversation. At first, the creatives and me and Reinier in particular as well, are surrounded by people that are constantly thinking off and on about anything in life, like we all do. Like any human being reads a book or has an opinion about something. And I don't know, like with the growth of technology and the need for a human voice in this time and day and age, is that with increasing, how you say, perfecting of AI and data and all of that, you feel the need to, I don't know, like talk a bit about human things. And there, this contrast is increasing. But this is completely separate from the brief, but this was on our minds for, I don't know how long, for a bit at least. When we started at INNOCEAN, INNOCEAN is a very young agency. We were only 3 years old at this stage. And back in the days, we were taking care of like international clients. And there was a strong need to work also locally in Berlin. And we found a client and worked together with them. Charité is the biggest university hospital, I think, of Europe. Maybe the biggest in the world, we don't know, but definitely one of the more prominently ones. And what makes them unique is that they do research themselves and they're a hospital. So immediately we found strong ties there, not only based on the ambition that we had to explore technology and medicine, or medicine science, but also to, I don't know, like explore other territories. So from there on, and also learning from our personal, how you say, stories from relatives, there was a really strong link between what they were doing and what we were experiencing. And there was still yet so much to be understood that yes, there was an idea on the table to create an art collection from day one. But when we were meeting the patients and speaking to the professor, Frau Kuhn, it became a collaboration of experts in neuroscience and the expertise of the design expertise that we had, and including the technological experience from Media Monks that should not be forgotten in the process. And it was this kind of like, how you say, team that sat together and were constantly questioning, are we doing the right thing here? And that's, I think, normal when you're working on a project that revolves around people's lives, especially when it's Parkinson's disease. So during the project, we were really open to constantly revisit the core of the idea constantly. Are we doing the right thing? Are we over designing everything? We're more like a documentary maker than or journalist than really try to enforce design or anything on it that comes out of our hands, our so-called expertise, basically. And we had to learn along the complete timeline of especially with the interviews, to fully understand what it feels like, what it might be like, to also for us to translate it in every little bit, from music to graphic design, to every little bit needed to be carefully, how you say, constructed with a meaning that was, how you say, doing justice to the topic. And that was, I think, the brief, if you call it that way, it got rewritten while we were working on it from time to time. So you get better and better and better because you get the information more and more. So with each interview from each patient, we heard another story that we didn't know. And yeah, that's just, I don't know, like if you think about Parkinson's itself, it has more than 40 symptoms. We had Reinier knew, and the team as well. So there you have the complexity behind it. And so yeah, that's basically the right answer, I would say. For client brief, definitely. It's constructed together with everybody, constantly shifting back and forth between creation and question and answer. Yeah.
Wow, no, it's honestly, it sounds amazing. I would have loved to have been in that room or multiple rooms. And you talk about this journey and not wanting to make a mistake, like wanting to be true to like, what the results should be. But was there, like, what was your first approach, and how did that change? And then what was like, how did you come up with the final idea that you knew was the right solution that would convey this, empathy that you needed for the Parkinson's family?
Well, yeah, when you first think of an idea, you feel you just want to stress basically the more like drama and the pain people like the suffer, that people understand that. But while we're interviewing the patients, we also learned they really had hope. And they, like, for example, one of the patients told she bought a dress, so once she could dance maybe again in the future, she could use that. And so these are beautiful stories. So I think that changed a bit the tonality of the project. Less like oh, look how bad these people are having. We turned the tonality a bit more also into stories of hope, because we realized these stories really inspire people, also other patients, to speak up about their problems. So I think that was at least one learning we discovered during the process. And for example, one other patient told he was suffering from Parkinson's for already 8 years, and then he started rock climbing. So like it's like things you you don't think of up front. And I think that's what also what Marlon said about, like, you rewrite the brief while doing the process. I think it's such a complex disease with all those symptoms. And so I think that's, and also the treatments, they partly work, but the disease is still progressing. So sometimes patients experience better times and then it gets worse again. So it's really a complex disease. And that's why also the production was a bit complex. Finding the right tonality also took a bit longer, as you might think up front. So these were, I think, this was one, at least, tonality change we made during the project. And we felt it was for the better, because then the stories even became more inspiring also for other patients who would maybe stand up and share their story as well.
But I mean, you talk about the complexity of the project, but the final outcome was so beautifully simple. If we can see something, we can feel it. So when we see, these objects that have been affected, we can, make a connection straight away. How difficult, like, what was the hardest part of the project in, like, when you knew what you wanted to convey, how hard was it to say, right, let's get a machine to do this? And then how hard was it actually to get that machine to do it?
Really, really difficult. Even though that we were talking with the media monks, like they even said like, wow, you know, like, yeah, it's exactly the type of work we would like to do, is to challenge ourselves and to really, yeah, to be challenged as a creative, and the artwork as it came out to be, yeah, it wasn't really hard for us to communicate with other people that we really rely on in producing these things, because it resonated strongly, we figured. And that was also the power of the fact that we were using an art collection instead of anything else. And it's a very intimate relationship you will have. It's a conversation with you go into a museum and you have a painting in front of you and you will gaze at it, and it's even though there are hundreds of people around you, it's still an intimate conversation you will have with that painting. And we felt that art pieces, they will last forever. It's an intimate conversation. It fits well with the patients, and the fact that we have Parkinson's to speak on behalf of the people. I think this steps more in the question that you had before about how it came to be. So I felt the need to answer to your previous question, but it is really, how you say, doing research about what we discovered when we did the interviews with patients, but also relatives from us, is that they lock themselves up and they choose isolation instead of talking about it. And we laid it next to other, how you say, campaigns or awareness campaigns around certain diseases or complexities in medicine. And we figured that there was an opportunity to help the patients in this, I say, the situation they're in, to make it more easy for them to talk about it, to be understood, and also to not lock themselves up in the process, because they would choose isolation, live a lonely life. And it's because the disease comes with many, I say, issues. The dopa goes away, so you feel more different than before. Auto systems will go down, your taste changes, your sight, so freezing moments you will have. So you have a lot of explanation to do to other people, and they're just afraid being labeled a lunatic or crazy or misjudged. And for that simple reason, they choose isolation. So we figured early on that we needed an idea that would speak on behalf of them, that would communicate, that would help them, to give insight at one point, and also they would feel the need to open up, to give explanation about what is standing there. And that worked really well. There was a strategy that we saw working when the patients shared their data, and the object was standing there. They really felt invited to give explanation about it. Family would come, and during the opening, they would talk a bit about it and stuff. So from a distance, you could only, I say, not enjoy is the wrong word, but pleased to see that people that have a difficulty talking about it, yet here they are talking with strangers about Parkinson's in their free time. And that I think was for us the most important thing, is to have this conversation between the not knowing and the people who are suffering from it. And but to really build it, to get the data was the most difficult part of it. Me and Reinier and the team, and especially account as well, trying really hard to get hold of the data and the collaboration of patients. They were there, but then GDPR happened. The law of data protection and all of the personal information changed completely. And we had a lawyer coming in the building that was just about the agency law and everything, that documents that need to be signed. We all know what happened. And the only thing that me and Reinier were doing, like giving each other, like off and on looks to each other, like, I think we might need to sign new documents again, you know, like it was so hard to let's say it's really hard for you to get a copy of someone's passport. In this project, we make use of people's most personal belonging. It's medical data. And yeah, we were just inspired to see how you say, how collaborative the patients actually were in the process. And that says something about the idea itself, we felt, to have their full commitment. And I will not say that we didn't expect it to happen, but when it happened, it really, it still gives me, you don't see it, but a certain feeling of like, okay, we might be on something better than we think we are. so yeah, that it felt like an agreement and a confirmation of like, go on, please continue. And in that sense, the whole project was very a sensitive human project where people were constantly like, is it okay? Is it not okay? Or is it okay that we do this? And it's a lot of human management, I would say, or emotional management that went into it, that I think you feel when you look at the objects, that it has a bit of this emotion, I think, maybe encapsulated.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. So, you know, you talk about the difficulties, and every project has, you know, those are some very unusual ones that, you know, I think very unique to this project. But it seems like the motive seemed to be the easiest part of the project. Is that correct? Like, what was the, you know, oh, thank God, this is the easy part of the project?
We try to collaborate and find experts for every part of the project. So we try to find a beautiful exhibition space. We try to have a journalist interviewing the people, because like, we needed to make the patient feel comfortable in front of the camera. All these things. We had a musician writing composing the score for us. And all these people were very easy to find, I would say, because whenever we explained the project and we explained how the project was built, they jumped on it, and often even free or for only a little compensation. So I think we can be very happy that these people really saw the intention of the project and wanted to use their skills to make it even better. Because of course, when you, as an agency, you have skills, but you also need to look for skills outside of the agency. And it was very amazing to see how people jumped on it and helped us to make the project much better than we could have done ourselves. So that was, I think, the easy part. Even though it sounds normally like difficult to find people, but this time it was a bit easier. Just, I think, because people saw the importance of the idea and felt they needed to be part of it.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. Why, like, anybody coming to this, why would they say no? You know, like, yes, I'm on. So I just want to talk a little bit more broadly about your practice in INNOCEAN. Is there a specific way that you tackle briefs, and did it change? I know we talked earlier about a very collaborative process with this brief, but in your practice as a whole, is there a way that you kind of approach briefs when they first come in the door?
Well, it's what was unique for us was that we work in units basically, and what amazed me compared to previous experience is that the collaboration, and it's competitive, yes, but also very collaborative, good team play, and people give honest opinions to help make an idea better. That's really a very important, how you say, environment to have, to get that support and the feedback that really, I say, you want to listen to, because you respect them, and you work with really great colleagues. So to have, like, I would not say that it always works best to put a lot of people in a room and to brainstorm. There was obviously an idea that came from a few people, from us, or by working with Charité, but at one point the idea gets so big, complex, that it's really helpful when people that hear the echoes in the hallway, that I miss right now with remote working, by the way. Just listen into it, and they just pop by and say, like, hey, I heard you talking about whatever we were talking about, and share an opinion or jump in when we were like trying to fix something in motion design. But how we approach brief, me and Reinier in general, and also INNOCEAN itself, I think everybody has their own, our own way of doing it, and I think we all do. Of course, there's a culture, and the culture is really like, do your thing. And in that sense, it feels a bit more didactic and free to roam wherever the mind can go, basically, and to question things you want to question. Of course, there are certain, returning ways of working, but I think we all in the building complement to each other, because we all have different ways of working. We're, many working with many nationalities. For instance, we're an true international agency that, I don't know, like, you look left and you hear people talk in a language you never heard before, and you look to your right, the same. And it's beautiful to rub against those minds from time to time and see what they think about something. And but yeah, Reinier and I never believe in formula thinking. We really believe in that every brief or every client or every problem that you look into needs to be figured out of how it should unfold work-wise. It's a completely new idea, new brief, new voice, new sounds, new people you work with. We are quite in understanding that it needs a completely different approach from our end. So we always press the reset button, us two, and we just start from the bottom again. That's the best way I can describe it, is that every project you just start at zero and you have to become an expert, trying to become an expert. It's like an actor trying to act out a role. You want to do research on how to act out that role the best you can. And because in the end, you're trying to convey something on screen or through this case an art collection. So you better know what you're talking about, and or at least listen carefully to people who, in this case, enduring something that we don't know anything about physically and experience-wise. But yeah, I think that's maybe how I can describe that the best, is to never fix too much to a certain way of working, because that would limit you, I think. And then really try to be open and honestly looking for the right way to approach things without too many boundaries, maybe. Yeah.
So then would it be correct to say that your methodology for the creative process, whilst it changes client to client, is like fundamentally based on, it seems like, research at the beginning, and then figuring out the best way to tackle the particular problems?
Yeah, it is kind of like there's not like really one methodology, because it's kind of like a liquid way of working. But the idea of like having a machine with a human disease, it's very strong and powerful to begin with. That we got really early, and in the art collection. But then you run into all these other questions, like how do you make it happen? And those questions, they also give way to other creative input and other creative solutions as well. And you need to approach it in the exact same way as you approach the whole entire project, is that I don't know anything, and I will try my best to listen carefully to the ones that know a little bit more than we do. And to listen to a professor or a patient would help us to kind of translate what we've learned into visual or into music or into programming or anything. Like we see each other more than as a translator. And I think it has to do with the fact that this project was more, the whole DNA of the idea is really listening and helping people to talk and to bring people together. That was the DNA of this project. And if you respect that, then I think it comes together in this way. But right now we're working on a completely different project that has a completely different DNA to itself. And so you communicate differently, you feel different. It's maybe method, it's method, acting method, creative. You become the project, kind of, yeah.
So I think for Printed by Parkinson's, it was a very particular output, but say for some of our other listeners, where would you look for inspiration, or where would your references come from? And I think that it might be more of a, do you look elsewhere to help inform your methodology, or to inform the particular look and feel of something? Where's your reference? Where do you look?
Well, I think it's important to look inside the industry and outside of the industry. So inside the industry, you try to keep hold on what's happening or what are the trends, because of course you want to break these trends sometimes. So it's very important that you keep aware of like what's happening in the industry. But then of course you also need to find inspiration outside of the industry, and sometimes it can be from an art block or even a sports match. If you, for example, see how Zlatan scores goals, like even with the heel with his foot, that's also creativity. So I'm always I find inspiration everywhere. But yeah, in this case, when we talk about Printed by Parkinson's, the inspiration came off kind of a life experience of a relative being diagnosed, and that can also trigger sometimes your creativity, you feel the urge like, hey, this is something we feel connected with, and we want to do something about, and use the creativity yeah, to change this. And so it can also be just an inner burning fire where you feel like, hey, I need to change this. And often these are the best things, because you feel connected to a problem, and then it's sometimes also easier to do something with it, and to bring this out there, because it's easy to have an idea, but in the end, yeah, it's also important that you get it out there. And it's always easy to say afterwards when an idea is produced, like, hey, we had that idea as well, you know, like so yeah. And so it's really a big difference, like, to have an idea, but also then to just take that inspiration and bring it to something real, and something that gets out there, I think. And that's something that sometimes takes patience. Again, in this case as well, like it took more than half a year to find the 6 people to get on board. But in the end, we found a way to keep patient, but still keep pushing. And luckily, these people shared their story and helped us to produce our project in the best way. So inspiration. It's hard to put one thing on it, because it's important to, like, I think one of creative director always told us, like, don't wear headphones. And I think that's when you're outside. And I think that's also important. Like, sometimes maybe someone in the training before you said something that triggers something. Maybe you hear a sound, or you say, so I think it's important to always have kind of a radar open when you hear something, or you see a news, message that you think, hey, that's something. It's just a radar that needs to be on. I think that when something triggers you, that you see, hey, can I do something with it? Is this something that means something to me, or can it mean something to someone else? And altogether, that's something you can then use in your work.
And also, like, in that sense, for me at Reinier, like, no information is obsolete. So yeah, I think what I really like about working with Reinier in general is basically that our love for music, our love for photography, our love for anything but advertising as well. And we talk a lot about other things. We discussed yesterday with a long discussion about whatever. And I think these conversations are really helpful to form certain frames, and to kind of see what type of fields we could look into, either on how you say, on any brief. Basically, it becomes useful. So you have your, how you say, you already start thinking without the brief. And I think that is kind of, when you work in an environment that invites you to think, or you work with people that inspire you, you have all these moments where you're like, hey, that might be an interesting thing to look into, or hey, that book was really inspiring, maybe. And I think it's, you have your things that you really like that come on your radar, and then you have those things that, I don't know, just random stuff. And then suddenly it just, you remember in a conversation, like, I've seen this thing, and you need 30 minutes to look it up on YouTube, and you're like, what was it again? And then you find it, and it's just like 10 years ago, you saw this clip somewhere, really crappy, and it suddenly becomes really useful. That happened to us also a few years back at an agency when we were working on a camera brand. I was just surprised by how this useless piece of video suddenly became like, wow, this is the best reference that we can find in the project. And that's really cool. That's what I like about it, that you have all these things that you've seen, that you collect, and they become relevant at one point and help you to explain what you want to do. And so yeah, that depends really on the project again, but I really like that we're try to stay in touch with the world and with ourselves. And
I mean, it seems like such a simple notion that the more open you are to something, the more it can be possible, or the more, the more open you are to anything, it can, evolve in front of your eyes. But I think that also takes the discipline. Do you know what I mean? To actually allow you to continue to think like that.
It's a bit
I think you guys have clearly, through this project, have shown that, it's a discipline that you have. So, it's amazing. But I just want to think about what, like, you guys are, the work that you've created for Printed by Parkinson's and, in the general practice is really inspirational. I'm sure that there are young people thinking, how do I get to do this? So do you guys have any tips for young creatives that are going to start their career or that would like to get into something so multi-platform like you guys in INNOCEAN?
I think it's important, like to at least what we did, like don't look at the agency's name where you're gonna work, but look at the people. Like when we knew, for example, Ricardo, Wolf, and Gabriel Matar were starting INNOCEAN Berlin. The name of INNOCEAN Berlin wasn't so like yeah, it was just new. This is a co-working space with some people. And so based on that, we would never decide for an agency to go like that. But we knew Ricardo and Gabriel, and yeah, we felt we could be strong as a team together. So we instantly basically decided, okay, let's do this. And yeah, also I think Jeremy Cragen was someone who set up this agency in Berlin, and so it was also a great name. Yeah, a great person, a legendary creative. It was just an honor to be part of it, and we never felt sorry about our decision. And sometimes that's even better than if you go to an agency with a big name, but maybe you're just working then on the wrong client, or agencies, of course, the performance always goes like in waves. They might have some good years and maybe some less good years. So it's also not a guarantee to have success when you're at an agency with a big name. So we always looked at the people we were gonna work with. Like, are these people giving us the trust? Are they making us better creatives? Can we make work that we are proud of ourselves in the end? I think that's something we always take in consideration, and I think it's also important as when you get new into the industry to do as well.
Brilliant. So guys, I think we're at the end of our interview. I want to say thank you so much, Marlon von Franquemont and Reinier Gorissen, for being with us for the Art Directors Club of Europe talks. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, likewise. And nice
Thank
to meet
you.
you too.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
More than welcome.